going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Next Big Thing podcast, where we interview the founders and CEOs of crowdfunding startups. Today, we welcome on Katie Thomson, the co-founder and CEO of SquareBaby. As a registered dietitian and a mom of two, Katie and her co-founder, Kendall Glynn, knew how critical the first year was for an infant's overall health, and how the right food was critical to not only how they developed physically, but also mentally. They were sick of all the fruit-heavy, sugar-laden baby foods disguised as healthy, balanced options and knew they could do better. That's when they founded SquareBaby, a company that creates balanced, truly healthy baby food that delivers 100% of a baby's daily servings of fruit, vegetables, proteins, and grains. In addition to her work founding SquareBaby, Katie was the first ever nutritionist at Starbucks, where she played a pivotal role in the evolution of their menu, introducing healthier options. Since leaving Starbucks to start SquareBaby, she's consulted national brands such as Red Robin and Hilton and startups like NatureBox. You can learn more about her on LinkedIn. SquareBaby is currently raising on WeFunder, and the link will be down in the episode description. With that being said, Katie, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Excited to learn about SquareBaby, and welcome on the Next Big Thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be able to share the story and excited to share about our crowdfunding campaign.
So with that being said, why don't you pull up your slide deck and tell us and the audience a little bit about what SquareBaby is all about.
Okay, you got it. Hi, I'm Katie Thomson, a mom and a dietitian with a master's in nutrition, and I'm here to tell you that the baby food industry is broken. For far too long, leading brands have prioritized profit over proper nutrition. They've taken shortcuts on quality, ignored heavy metals reports, as well as recent science around food allergy prevention, and they've knowingly misled parents with BS marketing. Did you know that many baby foods have more sugar than a bowl of Lucky Charms? Parents are outraged. They've seen the leading brands knowingly sell meals with toxic levels of heavy metals. And most disappointing, brands are ignoring the science when it comes to food allergy prevention. Seriously, why is it that nearly every baby food brand touts allergen-free when we know and they know that introducing allergens early and often can help prevent food allergies from developing? Babies deserve better, and parents deserve a brand they can trust. That's why we created SquareBaby, the world's first and only baby food company offering 100% daily nutrition and early allergen introduction. Our fully customizable solution makes 100% daily nutrition 100% easy. Meals are made fresh with organic ingredients and delivered right to your doorstep. They come frozen in a compostable cooler box with dry ice. It's like having a dietitian make all of your meals. We've spent the last few years laser focused on proving the concept, understanding our customer, and building a capital efficient, scalable model. We've recently scaled operations with a leading co-manufacturer. Our margins remain strong and retention is off the charts. Parents love that we've taken the guesswork out of feeding their baby 100% daily nutrition, and we make it easy to offer the right foods to grow their little one to be an adventurous and healthy eater. So we hope you join us as we upend the $7 billion US baby food industry and put nutrition science at the center of every decision and help us combat old school thinking and save lives through food allergy prevention.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you, Katie. Thanks for giving us the pitch. I guess the first question I have is, can you tell us the story, the origin behind SquareBaby?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background as a mom and a dietitian meant that I was, of course, like every parent, really, focused on feeding my baby the right foods. But I started out as the nutritionist for Starbucks. I sat originally on the regulatory affairs team, which meant I was in charge of the data, the nutrition accuracy, the claims. You really understood how products can be marketed and how claims can be. How a baby food aisle can end up with, a lot of misleading information. And essentially, I had my first baby in 2008 and cruised the baby food aisle as a working mom. I was super overwhelmed from a time perspective. I made a few meals myself, but really I knew I needed to lean on a baby food company to really help me with the mainstay of his nutrition. And frankly, I was just fed up with what I found in the baby food aisle. I found that most of the meals were really fruit heavy. I thought that they were, misleadingly marketed, like I mentioned, and just lacking green veggies. Most of the meals, all of the meals back then were all shelf stable, muted flavors. And you just kind of felt as a parent that you're either going to spend all of this time where you'd rather be snuggling your baby and you're in the kitchen with a blender, or you're going to take the convenience of the store bought and really kind of feel like you didn't give them the nutrition or the flavor or the texture that you wanted to give them or that they really needed to grow up to be an adventurous eater. So taking that fire that started in me, I left Starbucks to kind of set out and find what this solution would be. I really wanted to take anxiety away from mealtime and that moment in the aisle where you're trying to figure out, okay, I see like these hundreds of products. What do I give my kid in a day? How do I know that they've gotten enough veggies and protein? How do I know I'm doing this right? And pediatricians are so gosh dang busy, as they should be, with all the other topics that they're covering, that really parents are finding themselves, Googling things and trying to figure this out on their own, which only leads to more kind of frustration and confusion. So when I sought to figure out what, launching a baby food company meant to me, I knew it wasn't just I wanted to create the next healthiest product and freshest product on the market. I wanted to create a solution that solved for all the pain points that I felt when feeding my own baby. So I kind of mentioned the fruit heavy sugar piece of it. The whole idea behind Square Baby and Square Foods is that every one of our meals is balanced. So parents can know and trust that while we have fruit in all of our meals in some way, all of our meals are going to be nutritionally balanced, follow the Academy of Pediatrics and USDA guidelines, and that we are never going to, kind of trick a parent into thinking that they've given their kids this balanced meal, but really we're, just applesauce with a sprinkling of superfood. So we, following the science and taking our backgrounds in healthcare, both me and my co-founder, who is a genetic counselor and has her whole background as an infant and maternal wellness. We really wanted to solve for all these pain points. So we made sure that our meal system was customizable, that it wasn't just for one type of family. So we have vegan meals, but we're not only vegan. We have vegetarian and animal proteins, but that's not the only thing that we do. So really creating this solution for parents that's customizable, but still ladders up to 100% daily nutrition.
So you mentioned how the baby food industry is oftentimes misleading customers by telling them this is really healthy food, but it has way more sugar than even Lucky Charms. You said in the pitch that the baby food has more sugar in it than an average bowl of Lucky Charms. How is that possible? How do these companies in the baby food industry get away with that?
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly what the intention is behind it. And if they're, you don't want to think that anyone's trying to get away with anything, but what we know is that sugar sells, right? I'm sure something about the fact that the sweetness is addicting, right? It's again, fruit and having babies, learn to love the taste of various fruits and the tartness of fruit and things as well is really important. But having your baby suck a sweet, puree out of a pouch for every meal is not helping them to understand to love veggies and bitter and earthy flavors and umami and all these different, flavor profiles that are going to help them grow up to be an adventurous eater. We also have seen with the invention of, or the popularity of the pouch, I think that's really changed baby food as well. So I think a lot of people have seen that as innovation and a great step forward. And we've certainly seen more organic as a popular or a very common attribute, which is great. We've seen a lot of better marketing happening, for better or for worse, right? With the great images and, I'm seeing kale and quinoa and these ingredients make me feel really, really good. But then you kind of flip it over and it's like apple, pear, it's the same first ingredient almost all the time. So from a food manufacturing perspective, I understand that depending on how a baby food company produces their meals, they might be trying to reach a certain pH. Fruit is more acidic. So if they're trying to bring their pH down, I'm telling you, our co-man, when we switched from the commercial kitchen to a manufacturer, was like, oh, well, you could just add more apple. And I was like, nope, we
No,
won't
thank
do
you.
that. Right. So, so we know that there are reasons behind it. It's a cheaper ingredient, right? So apples are going to be cheaper than salmon and, nuts and various proteins and things. But what we really need to be doing is, instead of looking at making our decisions all based on profit and the metrics in the grocery store, is really thinking about what's this next generation need from us, because we can help to shape their palates really early, and we can help prevent food allergies. So we really should be kind of banding together to do the right thing.
So, Katie, can you take us through start to end, how a square baby meal is made, or square baby food is made, and then also keeping in mind what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
maybe talk to us about what makes square baby that much different than, let's say, a regular baby food you buy at a supermarket.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you, for the first 3 years, my co-founder Kendall and I made the first 100,000 meals by hand in a commercial kitchen. So we very closely, we have a very close relationship with our recipes. We steamed the veggies, we, cooked the grains, we roasted the salmon, all the things. So when it came to finding the right partner that could scale with us and take our, homemade like food and make sure that we could now produce this at a large scale and go national and not grow out of our manufacturing partner, it was really important to find a co-manufacturing partner that was able to, work with fresh and frozen ingredients and to keep the integrity of the textures and the flavors. And we did not want to lose that freshness that our parents are coming to us for because we scaled. So that was really, really important. What makes us different? Gosh, a lot of things. So when I say we, really want to solve for every pain point, it's funny when we think about what our messaging is. Even when we launched the company, there were so many key messages that we had because we weren't just solving one problem. We could spend our whole time just talking about allergen introduction, how we're the only company with a allergen introduction menu that introduces 8 top allergens to help prevent food allergies, but also the proteins. So this was another big personal rub for me, which was I'll never forget my youngest little one. Okay, so he's now in high school. You have to know this is a really big thing. My baby food company now has a high schooler. But I remember back then trying to get protein into him because I found that so many of the baby foods seemed like it was maybe just fruits and vegetables. And I wanted him to get iron. And I knew how important this was. And I also just wanted him to get to know the taste of these savory proteins. And I felt like all I could find for him were these little beanie weenies in a jar, like floating in hot dog juice or something. It was
That's
disgusting. It
disgusting.
was so gross. And you have these moments as a parent where you're like, you could not pay me to eat this, but you try to give the cute face and you're like,
Yeah,
open wide, you're going to
yeah,
love this. And you're, meanwhile, you know, just
that was
trying
my
to,
mom with
trying to hold
broccoli.
it, right. Trying to hold it together. So
Yeah.
we're really proud that we have ingredients like our organic chicken bone broth. We've partnered with Butcher's Roly Roti Bone Broth out of the Bay Area. Their founder's been really, really supportive of us. And most of the baby food companies are vegan, the fresh baby food companies that are also doing direct to consumer. Most of them are vegan only, right? And only allergen free. So we're really proud that we were able to launch with a lineup and find a co-manufacturing partner that believed in what we were doing and was willing to take on these allergens because it's not something that anyone else is doing. And it was difficult to scale. But we're really proud of how we've done that. So the various proteins, the 100% daily nutrition, and allergen reduction are really our key differentiators.
Before I get into like a more investor type question, I did
Mhm.
want to delve into something you kind of touched on a couple times, which is just the nutrition for babies in general. Can you,
Mhm.
from a dietitian's background, can you explain the importance of that, and maybe what is missing from certain baby foods right now?
Yeah, great question. And I feel like I could go on and on about it. So I'll cover a couple of key things that will probably explain some of our differentiators too. I can't stress enough the importance of the early allergen introduction piece. New research has come out, landmark studies, EAT, TEAT, and LEAP studies that have shown that introducing allergens as early as 4 to 6 months can help prevent food allergies by up to 80%. And food allergies have been on the rise, increasing 50% from 97 to 2011. These are huge, scary statistics. If you think about what parents are most scared about, is will my child develop a food allergy? Because once that happens, I mean, it's your whole life. My son's best friend has severe food allergies that puts him in 911 positions. He's never been to a sleepaway camp. She has to think about every meal that goes to school, etc. It's a very, very scary, and life-threatening thing. So knowing that we have the opportunity and the science is there to prove that we as parents and as baby food companies can help prevent food allergies, that's just such an important window. And this early piece, it's not as though, it's not the same if you wait until they're 2 or you wait until they're 1. This early exposure really is the key, and repeated exposure, right? So it's not you just give your baby a hazelnut one time and you think you're good to go. It's repeated exposure. So that's why, having meals delivered to your doorstep and being able to offer your baby these allergens multiple times a week is so important. From other nutritional things that are, key to what parents are thinking about right now, obviously you're thinking about brain development. So you're thinking about healthy fats and other, key omega-3s and nutrients like that. And I think the other biggest fear is about your child becoming a picky eater. So especially if this is your second baby, so you've seen it go around the first time, you're like, woohoo, I was so great with baby food. And then maybe you get to toddler foods and now your kid's like on, chicken nuggets and goldfish or whatnot. Like, it's so important to start babies out early on an adventurous diet, and to expose them to, as many foods as possible. So one, from that allergen introduction piece, right? So exposure is important. But research has also shown that 4 to 7 months is a key window where they're most likely or susceptible to liking new flavors. So they're a bit more adventurous, I suppose. So not worrying as much about in those early months about, how much are they taking in, but thinking about how much variety have I given them. And that's where that fruit, fruit heavy piece is always so hard for me, because if you're just giving your kid these really fruit heavy meals, the veggies are drowned out. They don't really learn to like any other flavor. And then you try to transition them to table foods or the things that you're eating at home. And they're like, I want to, suck applesauce out of a pouch. So I think nutritionally, it's not just, the nutrients and the food allergy prevention, but it's also what we're building, the healthy habits we're building at this stage. And it can't be stressed enough. Our relationship with food starts from the very beginning. So sitting down and eating from a spoon and sitting, having a family meal and being exposed to flavors and knowing when to stop, all these things that as adults, sometimes we're trying to correct, right? But if we start these healthy habits early and they're modeled early and we're consistent with them, we can really help our kids grow up to be adventurous, healthy eaters.
I never would have thought that eating habits start that early in your life, but it does make sense when you kind of think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to transition into maybe some more investor type questions, which is, how you're planning to grow the business and a go-to-market strategy. And also I'm also interested, maybe take it from your first, when you guys were making those meals yourselves, and what your first customers were then to where you guys are now and how you're planning on growing the business.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, we started out in a commercial kitchen. This is a very different approach than many of our competitors and many other brands, especially out of the Bay Area. So we knew that, well, one, we didn't want to launch with 1 or 2 or 3 SKUs, right? So if you're going to start a food business, most often they would say, pick a couple and, get those out on shelves or see how those are going and then pivot. And I was like, no, that's not the way we're going to do it, because we are going after, a subscription business where we really tell parents, hey, we've thought through this, we've done the research and the science, and we've developed this system that's going to take you from, 4 to 6 months in your first bites and transition you all the way through, chunkier meals. we wanted to be truly a one-stop solution. So it's not like, oh, well, I rely on Square Baby for these couple of snacks or, these types of meals, but really that we would have enough variety that they're not, kind of bored with our meals. Like, okay, we've done that. You can't give your kid the same 3 meals or same 6 meals every single week. Variety is really important. So we knew that starting a commercial kitchen meant that we could build a very nimble, capital efficient model, right? Because we're not buying anything in crazy amounts to start. So our containers, we bought by the case and then the pallet full versus like a truckload or hundreds of thousands of units. We bought our fresh carrots 50 pounds at a time, right? Hauled them in ourselves. And so really we could be focused on really tweaking the recipes and understanding our customer and launching new products and things. But also starting to create meaningful relationships with those we knew would be important for scale. So for example, we have always partnered with Stallbush Farms in Oregon. Even though, they can send you truckloads of sweet potato or whatnot, we were buying from them, the 50-pound pails of frozen, sweet potato, right? Because we knew that it was important for us that when we went from commercial kitchen to co-manufacturer, it wasn't like, and now everything is different, right? So it was working with Rolly Roady and Strauss Family Creamy for yogurt and our key suppliers and farmers that we knew we would want, that would be kind of integral to our scaling and to our product integrity. We made sure that those, relationships were strong and that our product really kind of was optimized towards those ingredients and suppliers. The same thing we did with our 3PL. So our frozen shipping partner is like the lifeline. Like if that doesn't work or your website doesn't work as a direct to consumer company, like doesn't matter how good the nutrition, how good the product is, if you can't get a frozen meal to your parents' doorstep on the day that they expect it and at the temperature it should be, you're done. They've just spent $100 on baby food. And even if you ship them the next replacement for free, if you fail on the operations piece, you've kind of lost their trust that you care, in my opinion, about the things that are most important, which is, the health and the safety pieces of it. So we were really laser focused on our customer and on the operations, which I think it just shows who we are as a company. We didn't grow for growth's sake or, throw crazy amounts of money towards customer acquisition and then not be thoughtful about how to take care of them or how to scale. This was very much, let's start small. Let's kind of incubate in the Bay Area and then kind of grow. We grew to 8 states where we were shipping as far east as Colorado. But then knew that, again, as we scaled, we needed to really understand those metrics, understand our product, and make sure that as we went national, that who we are, what our product looks like and tastes like, and the way we're able to take care of our customers doesn't change, right? So that customer experience, we truly feel like our reason for being. Kendall and I wouldn't be here with kids in high school so passionate about a baby food company if we didn't really feel like we were helping parents in their day and remove, their stress and anxiety. So, from a customer service, from, being there and answering nutrition questions as a dietitian, right? They have a straight line into us through customer service to answer any questions, related to the product and to the nutrition. And all of this is so important to us as we, really strive to be a true partner with our families, and to become that most trusted brand.
So I heard a quote today and it reminded me of kind of what you're talking about, where they said there's 2 types of companies that try and get the most value out of their customers and companies that try to provide the most value to their customers. And you very much seem focused on the latter, as they're constantly focused on trying to provide as much value to the customers. Can you talk more about the subscription model? If someone were to buy a subscription, is it delivered once a week? Is it delivered every day? Talk about that process. And then what has the customer receptiveness been so far?
Yeah. Great question. So, we built our customizable subscription service to be just that. Like, we didn't want anyone to feel tricked into a certain assortment or, it really needed to be as as user-friendly and intuitive as possible. So customers can come on and they can completely customize their box, but they can also use nutrition filters. So they can say, oh, my baby, I want to see the vegetarian options or the meals that are highest in iron, or right, there's a bunch of different kind of nutrition need states as well that we allow for parents to filter. So it makes it really easy to choose the meals that maybe work best for them. And then from there, they can pick 4 different subscription sizes. So we have a 14, 28, 42, and 56 meal boxes. And that just accounts for 1, 2, 3, or 4 meals per day for 2 weeks. So they're delivered every 2 weeks. So if you just sign up and you never touch your subscription, the same thing will keep coming every 2 weeks. But of course we send, reminder emails before they ship. Say if you'd like to make any updates or change or skip or anything, we send a couple of reminders, because I would rather, even if that reminder reminds them to skip, I would rather them have that reminder than be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. We're going on vacation and now I've got this, frozen baby food coming to my doorstep, and they're furious, right? So we really go out of our way to make sure that, they're in full control of their subscription, but also they get these little reminders, so that they can manage it and get things when they want. But we make it easy too. Like, we are often shipping to someone's vacation. We just have gone through the summer season, right? So now I'm shipping to your Tahoe house or your hotel in LA for your vacation that you're going on. And so we like to walk them through that, so that they know that they'll have the meals ready for them, when they arrive.
Well, the fascinating thing about that too is Brendan and I, we were talking to a venture capitalist the other day, and he said the best companies are the companies that reduce friction. And with Square Baby, it reduces a lot of the friction of having to go out, having to shop, and then having to cook the food too, and then having to count and make sure that, the baby's getting all the nutrition. What I did want to talk about was growing and scaling Square Baby. What has that process been like? Because there's a lot of logistics that you have to manage, right, in order to deliver the food, make the food. So can you walk us through that process?
Yeah. And I think, I have the caveat of it's been COVID for like ever, right? Thankfully, I feel like we're a little bit out of it, but we had, like every other company, and I think especially, those who are relying on, new packaging and tooling exchange parts and all these things, the process took longer than we hoped, but I don't think that's odd. I think that's just, unfortunate and was frustrating. Because we were so used to, in the commercial kitchen setting, like if I want to launch a new meal, my husband, who's our creative director, he's an advertising background, I'd be like, oh, can you create me a label for, a coconut shrimp fried rice on it? Okay, we get the labels printed. I've got the recipe. We've got, we're in there, and 3 weeks later, I've got, 500 new coconut shrimp fried rice meals or whatnot. But so the process was longer than we hoped, but at the same time, there's the importance of finding the right manufacturing partner cannot be stressed enough. I feel like everyone has a horror story. And I'm insanely grateful for our partner, in which we know the founder. They're tried and true, and baby food is what they do. There's no question, frankly, that we are grateful that they took us on as being, one of their smallest to start, right? So, we're stoked that we're meeting their MOQs, but certainly, like, I think we needed them more than we needed them more than they needed us, right, in the beginning. But they also saw our not only potential for growth, but how we're leading in food allergy prevention and early allergen introduction, and the opportunity at hand. So that was amazing. As I mentioned before about the partnerships, so of course, going from a regional company and brand to a national brand sounds really crazy and daunting, but I think because we had set up the systems already and built the right team in place, logistically, it's not that, it really isn't that different. We're using this same 3PL that we started with from day one. So we completely understand, obviously the systems are all integrated, of course, but we understand their team. They understand us. Their customer service is amazing. We'll grow with them indefinitely. They've been a huge part of our team. But all we had to do to be national was to turn on their East Coast fulfillment center. So we knew that when we chose them, right? So, okay, if we can hit the western third of the US if we use your West Coast fulfillment center. And as soon as we can produce more than 800 meals in a commercial kitchen a day, then we can start shipping meals to our East Coast fulfillment center. So being that our meals are frozen, this is not only a benefit for our customers and our families because they can just stock up their freezer and thaw them as they need them. They don't have to worry that the meals are going to be, they're going to go bad in, 3 days. And you kind of get this anxiety of, oh my gosh, it's like when you go to Costco and you bought all these vegetables and you're like, is anyone else eating vegetables? Because we have a lot, to eat before it goes
because
bad.
The freezer's full, but we have no food.
Yeah. So the freezing part is great just from a customer experience perspective. And frankly, so many of our customers are coming to us not from another baby food brand, but those that were making their own food. They're like, I don't want anything else. I needed to make this on my own. So most of those parents were already making their own food, putting it in ice cube trays or whatnot, and then putting those in the freezer. So the freeze thaw thing is a very common user experience. But for us, obviously, it allows us to, create a larger run and not have the anxiety of, oh my gosh, now we've got 25 days to sell through this food or some short amount of time because it is a perishable food. So from a scaling perspective, that's really minimized our risks as well as we've kind of grown our consumer base and our reach across the country.
So I wanted to go back to the pain points you talked about. A number one pain point for, unfortunately, a considerable amount of people is affordability. So how is Square Baby looking to accommodate those customers?
Yeah, and that is a consideration. We hear it, we feel it. We know that not everyone can afford, frozen meals to be delivered in an eco-friendly cooler box right to their doorstep. It is just a reality, but something that as we grow and are able to think of other ways to give back, to donate, etc. I mean, that is in our hearts and who we are. But I'll tell you some of the things that we've done. So we have donated and partnered with women's shelters. So those who are, kind of in the greatest need. We really have to focus on, because we're a frozen product, we have to focus on those who can take, a perishable product. So that's important. Operationally, make sure that they have a freezer so that they, can take our donations. We have a, ongoing military discount. And, we often, do giveaways or other things where we can give back. That said, we have a larger mission that we have, we launched a few years ago, but being such a small company, we've not really had a lot of money to put towards the marketing or PR behind it. And that is called Good Feeds. So Good Feeds was born out of my, we'll call it frustration, an opportunity to kind of turn the influencer model on its head a little bit. And I think it's because we would have so many, we fed Peloton instructors and NFL families and you name it. I mean, we've shipped to celebrities' doorsteps and all of these people who are getting free food, right? Because they're just, great, awesome. Of course, I'm going to ship to you if you want to give us a try, and awesome if you post about us, right? But who really needs free meals? It's not, those that can more than afford it, right? It is, others. So we thought about Good Feeds as using your feed to feed others. So what we said was, hey, yes, we'll ship you these, these samples and meals for free. But if you post about us, we'll donate 10 meals to, at the time it was Feeding America. Now it's No Kid Hungry for every post, and everybody that you tag will donate 10 free meals. So just saying like, hey, if we're going to be sharing this, let's make that the sharing of our product be something that gives back. And then we just doubled down on this, thinking about, because we didn't want it to be that you had to buy our meals in order to give. That just kind of felt, I don't know. It's great to be giving, but you want to give everybody an opportunity to give, not just those who are purchasing your subscription. And so that was sort of the point behind Good Feeds, is anybody can just post and tag us and hashtag Good Feeds, and you don't have to be saying anything about Square Baby. Just hop on board, and we're excited to give. We just doubled down in that every meal sold, we will match and donate a meal to No Kid Hungry. So we just had a great call with No Kid Hungry this week, which we were really excited about, and we'll be kind of pushing out a bigger campaign. So that means, you also don't have to post about us to give, right? Because some people would rather just purchase a product and never post on social media. Totally fine. And other people might be like, hey, I'm not a customer. I've got, a 14-year-old, or maybe I can't afford your food, but I'd love to be a part of the giving. So Good Feeds is all about, our platform for giving that really makes it as easy and accessible as possible to be a part of a solution to reducing hunger.
Fantastic. No, that's wonderful to hear that you guys are doing that. I want to transition to now a little bit more about you. I mentioned a couple times, and you've mentioned mother of two. What's it like being a founder as a mother, and then maybe to go along with that, as a female founder?
Yeah, gosh. First of all, I'm insanely grateful. I think that it's very easy to focus on how stressful it is to build your own company and to have the weight of all of that on your shoulders every day, in the middle of the night, all the things. I choose to look at it as, I'm so insanely grateful that I have the opportunity to chase my dreams, and I can't believe I've gotten to this point. So, gratitude, number one, because as I mentioned, having a 14-year-old means that I only launched the company 5 years ago. So it took me many years to even get to the starting line of finding the right co-founder, raising enough money, the first friends and family round to get us started. Right. So I was toting around this idea and this deck and carrying this baton for like 8 years before I sold a meal. So awesome. This is my heart and soul, and what I honestly, cliche, but feel like I am meant to be doing. And I think when I think back to when I thought I would launch the company, when my, baby was like, two, when I had a like 1 and 4-year-old, right? And I really first started developing the company. I look back on what my life was then and now, and I'm grateful for the time it didn't work, for the amount of time it took us to launch. And that's because I have a lot more flexibility now, right? I mean, COVID allows us all to be, many of us to work from home, and that's a wonderful thing. And to find those flexibility moments so that you can show up for the soccer games and you can do the things that are really important. But from an age perspective, having, this is where as a mom, you hope to not tear up in these interview moments. As a parent, you're always trying to teach your kid to follow their dreams. You can do whatever you want. That success doesn't look like, what it does for one person is the same for another. And I think there's nothing cooler than showing them that, here I am out in the farmer's market, or doing this pitch, or, on the news, or whatever, or just rolling up my sleeves, doing the super, unsexy thing all the time as an entrepreneur, right? It is not glamorous most of the time, but they're seeing that, like, if you just stay passionate, work hard, keep getting back up, all the things that you can really chase your dreams. I know that sounds so silly, but I think that all comes to fruition and is made more evident as a parent. And so that's really cool. And I have now my little field marketers. So we'll walk around the farmer's market, and if I don't have a booth that day, they're like wearing their t-shirt and they're like, Mom, should I go tell them squarebaby.com? And I'm like, yes. So it's pretty cute. Awesome. They're really proud. Yeah. But they like carry their little tote bags around and have a t-shirt. And this is not my, my idea, but they've also been a part of, so I mentioned that my husband's in advertising, and this is the way apparently we show our love for each other, is that he knew I was like really stressed out one night. And so he created 4 videos. I think that took more than one night. But they were allergen videos. I'll have to share them with you. They're on our social feed, but it was when we were really leaning into, talking about allergen introduction. And so he, wrote the scripts, created the characters, and then had our kids come in and do voiceovers. So the little egg, Sunny the egg, is my son, Nolan. It's the cutest thing. And then I think it's the hazelnut is my son, Jackson, who's 14. Nailed it. I mean, first of all, came in to the office because Kevin just, pulled him in and said, hey, do you have, 30 seconds? It was in the evening. They were probably watching a show or something. Comes in, does the voice recording in our office. And then Kevin unveils to me these 4 videos. And now I have my kids as little characters. So there's a lot of things that are really special about it. But I think in general, it's just proving to your kids that they should just go out and create the life they want for themselves. Yeah.
Well, I always find it interesting because there's a quote among the entrepreneurial community that says, it's a 20-year overnight success, as in you work for 20 years and then boom, it's a success, and everyone sees the success, but they didn't see the amount of times you're
Yeah.
running around the farmers markets, the amount of times you were pitching people and you got rejected and getting knocked down and getting back up. For those that are struggling to chase or those that are trying to chase their entrepreneurial dreams, what's a piece of practical advice that you can give them that they can have in the back of their head to think about and reflect whenever times are getting tough in order
Yeah,
to kind of persevere and keep going?
totally. I think there's a few things. One, I think you need to know that you need to be passionate enough about what you're doing, what you're solving, the product, the service, whatever it is, because you have to know why and what you're giving so much of your life up for, right? Because you're not guaranteed a salary, anything. I mean, I have hardly paid. We started paying ourselves, but really, it's really a 15 years of me giving up a pretty cush, salary and benefits in a typical work environment. But so really knowing what your product is and to be passionate about it. I think any entrepreneur needs to start with what they're solving versus I want to launch a product. You can't come up with a product second. You can't just want to do this because you want to create some business or be a CEO or whatever it is, because it's that fire that's going to keep you going. I always say this and I feel like it sounds so simple, but I have learned, and I feel like I continue to remind myself to just trust your gut. I mean, there's so many times where my gut's so strong about maybe it's something risky or something unconventional, or maybe it's a partnership or something that, you should probably kind of get further down the road and you should say no to it. And you kind of knew, back then maybe this wasn't the right, anyway, trusting your gut, I think is the most important thing that you can do, because there's always going to be people with their opinions. But, anyway, I think the gut is a very strong, intuitive thing to not, ignore. I think the other thing is surrounding yourself with smarter people than you and people who think differently, ask different questions. I mean, Kendall and I, finding the right co-founder is, beyond essential. I wouldn't be here. I would be an idea in a deck if it weren't for her. But, beyond that, the amount that we lean on each other personally, professionally through this crazy roller coaster, it's like a marriage, right? And so for that, finding the right co-founder or partners in general, who's going to be a part of your small circle. You want to find people that you really, really trust with everything, but also people who push you. So I'm inspired every day by Kendall. She is one of the hardest working people who makes everything look easy. So for that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, try to keep up. But also she thinks of things differently. She's much more analytical than I am. I'm much more like idea, kind of creator, designer, builder, dreamer, all those things. I'm ready to like jump off the cliff. And she's like, oh, let's put all your parachutes on and make sure you're super prepared. Right. So we're a really good match because I'm on one end of the spectrum and she's really on the other, but together we make all the right decisions together and we push each other to we ask a lot of questions and we go back and forth a lot, but we always end in the same place together. But if it weren't for her, and similarly with my husband's really creative push, I mean, sometimes he's pushing me beyond the bounds of comfort from a brand perspective, but I need that. And I lean on that from him, right? I don't want to stay safe all the time. I need someone to push me in that way too. So I think those early partnerships, whether it's co-founders or just your team and your inner circle, is really, really important.
Now, if there's one thing that I have learned from listening to other entrepreneurs answer that question, it's a lot of the best entrepreneurs have the same experiences and the same qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from a lesser degree, for me and Connor, you talk about being on two different sides of the spectrum. We talk about that all the time, that our creative ideas are very different. So I'm sure that what you said is going to resonate with a lot of people. I got two final closing questions for you.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I asked you this one, which is obviously you guys are on WeFunder. The link is in the description. Go
right.
check it out, Square Baby, for everything we may have not been able to cover in this interview. What is that money going to be used for, and why should somebody invest?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really spent the last year scaling operations. So I kind of talked about going to the co-manufacturer. We've also developed new custom packaging that's landed. We've worked alongside our co-man with that packaging to have new custom tooling. So all of that's done, right? We've really built the ship. We tested the ship with the first 3 years in market, really understanding our customer metrics and unit economics, our LTV to CAC ratio, all of that kind of stuff. So this what's kind of exciting about this raise is it's about fueling the fire now. So it's not, we've really reduced the red hot risks of a startup, right? Of like, oh my gosh, are people going to want to buy this? And are people going to come back? And is it differentiated? And all of the things that, proving the concept, that phase is really important. And now we just get to go fuel this engine of, customer acquisition, brand awareness, and really striving to be, the number one and most trusted brand in infant and childhood nutrition. So that's really exciting. And when I think about, the future, while this raise is very focused on our, infant nutrition and our direct to consumer platform, because that, the operations and stuff are all set and, very, very efficient. We see the opportunity to grow into Square Foods. So the name of our company is actually Square Foods. And you'll notice about our brand, there's nothing that feels baby or infant or kid. Our brand is very much about, nutrition and simplicity and, being a solution, being science-based, being, delicious and fresh and all the things, but really just kind of geared towards, the individual or the parent. So we really see an opportunity in the future to grow into Square Foods and take that customer that has, trusted us with the most important nutrition decisions and feeding their infant, and grow with that customer. So beyond baby food and into toddler and meals that are appropriate for the family. Because we've really built this, family of Square baby families, right? We have, babies that or families that are coming back with their second and third babies, which is so fun to see and to hear from parents who have said, oh my gosh, thank you. My toddler now is such an adventurous eater, and I think it's because of Square Baby. And that's the stuff that keeps you going, right? But we also understand from a business perspective, our biggest opportunity is to grow with our customer because they love us, they trust us. Our retention's high at nearing 80%. The number one reason they're leaving is because their baby age is out. So what a fun, cool opportunity for us to just keep innovating with various square meals and Square snacks that kind of meet parents' needs.
That's fantastic. That's a great vision, and I guess you kind of 50% answered my final question, which is when you're sitting down at night, maybe having a glass of wine or just hanging out with your kids and your family, and what is it that you want Square Baby to become, and what's that future vision that drives you?
Yeah. I keep coming back to the word trust. And that's because, we have put so much thought at every, juncture, every decision point is all about creating a company, creating a product, a brand, a service, a tone, all of these things about being a trusted resource for a family, right? So knowing that we're based in nutrition science, knowing that, we'll always be veggie forward, we're always going to be organic, we're all, trust, you don't even have to flip over the package. Know that, we're already half the sugar of most pouches because we have balanced nutrition. Easy. So being trusted is really important. I think that as we grow, that how we become a resource to families will just continue to grow. So I'm very excited about not only the various product lines that we have in the pipeline, but also the other ways in which we can reach our customers. So right now we're only available at squarebaby.com. It's a was such an incredible way to start the company because we, own that customer relationship. We have a one-on-one, in with our customers via email and all these things, right? We have all that data, which is really important and helpful to understand our customer, but being able to be available on other platforms in retail, et cetera, to really grow our brand to be more accessible from a trial perspective and awareness perspective, but hopefully also have a line of products that meets more of every household's budget too. So as we talked about, right now we're premiumly priced, baby food delivered to your doorstep in a compostable cooler box, right? But we see the opportunity as well to grow and have additional products that are more on the affordable end.
Well, Katie, I really enjoyed learning about the company. I am about as unqualified to talk about baby food as anybody, but I really enjoyed hearing your guys' story and learning about it. And maybe when it's Square Foods and you guys are in that part of your journey, that we can, when you expand to other foods, we can have you back on, and we'll hear more about the next stage of the company.
You got it. Well, I have to tell you, even though it's baby food, our beet berry makes a delicious smoothie. My 11-year-old chugs it. And we have catered, I'm not kidding you, we have catered adult events, not a baby or a child in sight, by putting like our mango coconut chicken over quinoa, and people have no idea it's baby food. So don't count yourself out.
All right. Well, maybe then I'll check it out for myself. Who knows?
Yeah. You just
I'm
think
not gonna
about it as
lie,
a dip or a snack or yeah.
some of it looks
Make it
really,
into
really good, even for me. I was
it
I was
is
like really
does
good.
look
excited.
It looks pretty appetizing for baby food, I have to say.
Well, here's the deal. If it's not something that you want to eat as an adult, like literally when Kendall and I create every recipe, if we don't want to gobble the entire thing down or put it over, a piece of pork or something, it's not good enough. Like we can't just think that, oh well, a baby's gonna eat it, because that's not the
Yeah.
point. It needs to be delicious. But yes, it is. Thanks for noticing.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Katie, again, thank you for your time. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed it. And I'm sure Connor did as well.
Thanks for coming on, Katie. This was awesome. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Thank
And
you. Really appreciate it.
yeah. And we will, for all the listeners out there, we will see you next time on the Next Big Thing podcast. Check out Square Baby, and the link is in the description. So long.
Bye bye.